So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Dave O'Flanagan, who's the CEO of Boxever. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Hi, Adrian.
Are you well?
Hi, Adrian. Yes, I'm well. Very, very well. Thank you.
I also want to say, Dave, thanks very much for being on the podcast this week. It's always nice to have some Gaelic flavour to the kind of podcast. It doesn't happen very often. I know you guys are based in Dublin, so I thought it's nice to hear your dulcet tones.
Yes, I'll try to make it. I'll try not to make it too hard to understand my Irish tones.
Very good. So, Dave, for the benefit of our listeners and readers, can you tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about the work that you do across at Boxever?
Yeah, so we here at Boxever, we're a data science company, and we've developed a product called the Customer Intelligence Cloud that's used by some of the world's leading travel brands to transform their customer experience. And by that I mean helping them primarily do two things. One, for some of our customers like Emirates, Air New Zealand and Finnair and others, really helping them create brand differentiated experiences. So understanding how to connect more effectively with their customers and build memorable brand experiences. For another cohort of our customers, like a lot of our low-cost carrier partners, those guys are really trying to look at how can they use customer experience to drive incremental revenue right throughout the customer journey, whether that's helping them sell more flights or cross-sell or upsell more ancillary products, additional travel products that their customer may be interested in, but all the time helping them acquire, convert, and retain customers in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible.
Okay.
My background, I'm the CEO of Boxever and the co-founder. We started the company in 2011. We're now 70 people, headquartered in Dublin with offices in the UK and the US. And we've developed the technology over the course of the last 5 years in close partnership with some really, really big brands. So we understand what it takes to help large organizations to understand how to use data more effectively within their organization.
Right. And so, so let me just kind of clarify something. Does that mean that you say you call yourself a data science kind of company? Does that mean that what you're currently developing is almost the first set of products or set of solutions that have come out of the work that you've done, and then you have plans to kind of do more?
Yeah, we've developed. It's a cloud solution, so it's very, very quick to integrate. And the return on investment is quite rapid.
Yeah.
And in terms of our vision for the company, we believe that by creating this platform that centralizes customer data from lots of disparate sources and has the capability to apply lots of different advanced analytics, everything from expert systems and rules right through to self-learning, adaptive and artificial intelligence applications, we see opportunities to help optimize business processes right throughout the organization. Today we're laser focused on solving the marketing and customer experience challenge that most of these guys are facing in the new digital world.
Yeah.
But tomorrow we see applications for that in fraud, in operational effectiveness,
right,
and other areas where you really have this data and this capability at hand. You can look at different business processes within your organization and possibly look at ways to improve, enhance, or transform them by really putting the customer at the center of that decision.
Okay, so just drilling into it a little bit. So I know one of the key things that you're doing is, and I guess one of the focuses of the solution is this one view. It's like the one view sort of product or solution, which sort of feels a bit like a 21st century version of the single unified view of the customer. I mean, would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, I think that this every organization wants to know more about their customers, right? And maybe 20 years ago it was really about, particularly in B2C organizations, it's about implementing kind of large, complex CRM type deployments. Over the last 10 to 15 years, a lot more talk about single customer view, which is another version of CRM, I would say, with possibly more data. And as we where are we today? I think what customers are realizing is that the approaches that they've taken historically around using probably traditional data warehousing techniques and ETL processes that take batch loads that happen daily or weekly are limited in their effectiveness in the digital world where things happen now. Whether somebody's on the website now, somebody's broken a geofence with their mobile phone now. And I think that the ability for a technology like Boxever's OneView product to be able to combine data, the more traditional offline data sources from CRM, transactional data, support data, together with real-time data from all the digital channels, the behaviors from the digital channels.
Right.
It allows a marketer to have one place to go to for all their data. Traditionally, they might have to go to their CRM tool for some CRM data, their web analytics tool for web data or behavior, maybe some other financial reporting tool for their transaction history. And some of that data has been combined, but it's a tremendously challenging thing to do. And we focused early on being able to solve that problem with some big organizations and some very complex organizations. And we're tackling things like identity. Who is your customer in different channels? The customer identifier in the booking reference may be different from the information on the website, different from the loyalty program, their support case, their mobile phone. There's a number of different ways that customers identify. Typically, it's a result of lots of different legacy systems that exist within the organization. What we do is we can stitch together those fragments of identity and be able to give them a view of their customer within the limits of maths and stats to be able to work out who is this customer at this point in time, and how should I best treat them based on the information that I understand about them or have gleaned in previous interactions. So It's a tremendously powerful paradigm, and I think that what we see is a shift, right? I think that there's a new class of technology. It's kind of broadly named Customer Data Platform, or CDP, and really what this is a confluence of CRM, DMP from the ad world, and other data sources that's brought together in a unified platform that the marketer goes to one place to understand all their first party data.
I mean, and is it just about the marketer, or is it also is it about anybody in the organization that needs to understand customers?
No, that's a really good point. Actually, we typically sell to the CMO or the VP of digital, and as I alluded to at the start, having this data centralized for the organization is tremendously valuable right across the organization. Mm-hmm. I guess where we're focused on right now is building this with marketing and customer experience in mind. But I think for an organization, it's a tremendously valuable thing to know who are your customers, who are your most valuable customers, how are customers spending, when are customers buying, because that has all sorts of implications for the financial health of your business. So it is a tremendously strategic asset to be developed within an organization, but we see most of the pull today coming from the marketing side of the business because they feel that they can leverage that capability the fastest within the organization.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so let me back up a little bit, because it's, you did talk about, we're talking about this unified view. You talked about the kind of a bit of time. I mean, I know that a single unified view has been talked about for 20 years or more, ever since kind of CRM sort of exploded onto the scene, and yet we're still talking about it and it still being a thing that people aspire to or want to achieve. I mean, let me get your point of view on this. Is it about legacy systems? Is it about data sources and compatibility? Is it about technology and it's just kind of shifted and moved? Or is it that it was a dream and a vision and it was a nice thing, it was a wish rather, and actually 20 years ago we didn't really have the technology to really deliver on it, but now we do? Or is there other things involved that have stopped? What have been the big roadblocks to achieving that?
I think it's a confluence of things, right? So the first thing is the CRM projects. I'm not talking about kind of a sales CRM. I'm talking about a big B2C CRM implementation.
Yeah.
Are tremendously complex, right? And traditionally to embark on a project like that, the solution was procured. It was installed on premise. Lots and lots of consultants were hired to configure that solution, and possibly 12 to 24 months later, the first applications could be rolled off the line to be able to use that.
Right.
And in that time, the organization would have suffered tremendous project fatigue. Costs would have overrun.
Right.
Generally, it took a lot of commitment from an organization to really push through that to get to a point where they'd have most of their transactional and kind of more slow-moving operational data in a CRM context to be able to be used effectively. So that required a huge upfront commitment from the leadership and also a financial commitment to do that. And I think the reason we haven't seen that, as it hasn't happened as much or as widespread as we thought it would, say 15 or 20 years ago, is just because of cost and leadership and priority shift, and ultimately, maybe people wanted to get online, they need to stand up a website. There's always competing priorities within an organization.
People change as well, I guess.
Absolutely, right. And as things have evolved, I would say two things have happened. One, I think maybe more of the digital is better understood now. So people have websites, people have mobile experiences. Not to say they're not challenged with new experiences on Alexa and chatbots and all these other things, but what customers understand now is that customer experience and customer engagement is of critical importance, of strategic importance to the business. And as everybody battles it out in digital, key differentiators will really be fought around customer experience. And to do that, you have to have a better handle on the data, on who your customer is and how to treat them. So I think that maybe previously, over the last 10 to 15 years, organizations were solving some pretty substantial issues. Like how do you get online? How do I build a digital presence?
Sure.
Now they're talking about digital transformation. How does digital actually transform my business? It's not about me having a website. It's about me fundamentally changing my business to accommodate digital. Like we're starting to work with a digital with a traditional bank, and the questions they're asking is, what if any physical assets do they need? In essence, as people move forward, and a lot of the interactions that their end consumer has is on a mobile device, they really want to know, what's the future of the branch? You know? And when you think about digital, is far more than that organization having a website or being able to manage my accounts online. It's a fundamental question for the business: is how do they remain competitive if their consumers are going to be primarily digital? And what, if any, is the role to play of all the legacy investments in infrastructure that they own as part of being a traditional bank? And for me, that just creates this imperative. Before it was, I think we need it. Now it's an absolute imperative to be able to understand who your customers are and be smart about those interactions. And so when the leadership gets to there, then there's some organizational challenges to solve, right? So one is the technical challenge that we alluded to earlier, and most of these organizations, whether travel or not, they've got some pretty challenging data sets to bring together and systems to integrate with. We're not talking about systems with APIs. They're talking about Edifact and COBOL systems that can be very, very challenging to integrate. And we've solved that for some big airlines. And the second piece, it's the piece that is often not talked about enough, is the people and organizational piece.
Yeah.
If, for instance, that you've got three different departments, say e-commerce, CRM, and loyalty in a classical airline, they've traditionally had their own data sets. They've functioned with their own KPIs. They've kind of treated their customers as their customers. When you start to bring in a technology or capability into the organization that says, we're going to have one centralized view of the customer. We're going to have one centralized contact strategy. We're going to do what's right for the customer and by proxy what's right for our business. But that's going to transform the way each of those departments work, because their KPIs are going to change. They're going to have to collaborate more. So it really asks a lot of questions about the organization. When we talk about digital transformation, it comes in so many different ways.
Sure.
One is business model transformation. Two is technology transformation. And three is organizational transformation. And I think that's the reason we probably haven't seen this technology everywhere. But what we see in the industry, right across industries right now, is an absolute desire by C-level executives to get it done. And they have the appetite now to take on all these different transformational elements to be able to achieve what they believe is of key strategic value to them. How do they build a better customer experience for each and every one of their customers?
Dave, can I dive in on something that you can you said then? I mean, you talk about kind of there's this real appetite at C level to get this done, as it were, and then because I think about kind of this digital transformation sort of piece, and yes, I think there's a lot of people facing a lot of kind of challenges, but one of the questions that I have, and you sort of I want to ask you about what you said, is that you talk about getting it done, but surely it's actually never done, and is that not the problem?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. I think that, yeah, and I would absolutely agree, right? It's not about, I'm going to do a digital transformation and I'm going to finish it in 18 months time. I think what's happening is companies have to change the way they run their business.
Yeah.
And their model is always going to be in flux. Their approach to technology is going to constantly be challenged, and they're going to have to build an organization that accommodates change readily, and that has the flexibility and the strength to be able to, grab new challenges or opportunities and resist and protect themselves against new incumbents or things that may negatively impact their business or business model. So
sure.
I would agree. I think, and maybe that's one of the challenges that organizations are just coming to grips with. In years gone by, I'm just going to implement my CRM.
Yes.
And that would be enough. And the project is X number of months or years long, and it's done. Actually, what we see in these organizations now is that they're using technology like us essentially to get to market quicker, to be able to try and test new hypotheses quicker, and have a level of flexibility, because we do one thing: we invest in helping them solve this customer data and personalization challenge, and we invest all our time and money in that. And that allows them to focus on, once they're not investing in the IT and the build and the maintenance of it, they're investing in the usage and the innovation that can be built on platforms like ours, because ultimately organizations' success isn't a one project thing. It's going to be, how do you build a capability into your organization to understand how they can move faster, how they can try, how they can innovate, how they can understand what works well in their business or not, and be able to, I guess, try, learn, and fail in a much more positive but quicker cycle.
Sure.
Because that's ultimately the way. That's what digital means, right? Digital means that there's a capability now available in the organization that could ultimately transform the business, but could kill the business. And the question is, how do you know what are the right things for the business, for the industry? The answer is you don't. You simply don't. And you can't just buy a piece of technology and expect that to happen. What you have to do is build capability and hire the right people in your organization to leverage technology like ours and others to be able to gain strategic advantage.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. So here's the thing, Dave, is that you're talking about this new emergence of customer data platforms and things. And that's kind of it's an emerging sort of thing. But I tell you what, how about bringing it to life? Can you give me a couple of client examples? I know you work with a lot of airlines and things, but I think if you explain some of the sort of, say, a couple of client examples in terms of the problems that they were facing, what they did, how long it took, sort of results they achieved, so on and so forth, because that would sort of bring it to life.
Absolutely. Let me. I just want to kind of put a little bit more color onto the Boxever Customer Intelligence Cloud first, and then I'll show you. I'll talk to how it's used. So the platform consists of three core components. One is what we've focused a lot on, is really Boxever OneView, which is bringing the data together and having this real-time profile that exists and accessible for every other system. The second part is Boxever Engage, which is our next best action, or our personalization engine, that wherever we see somebody, in OneView we have that information about them, but we need to be able to work out what should I say to him, what product should I offer to him,
right.
What communication channels should I use. So Boxever Engage uses rules, predictive models, adaptive models, and artificial intelligence to work out what and when and how is the right way to communicate with that customer based on where they are right now. Are they thinking about taking a flight to Japan? Are they actually purchased a flight to Japan? Are they now leading up to that flight? What else do they need? And understanding that who the customer is and their need at a specific point in the customer journey is incredibly important to be able to create this connected, consistent, and really clear customer experience. So that's the second. And the third product is Boxever Explore, which allows us to do deep analytics on all the data that we're gathering. So if somebody expressed an interest in a product 3 years ago and Boxever was integrated, that information is available to help influence future purchases or future decisions. So with that in mind, so that's the capability that we offer with our cloud platform. Our customers are leveraging that to do some really interesting things. So let me give you an example of something that we're currently working through with one of our customers. And this is a really expansive example to give you. So it's a full service airline, and they wanted to reimagine what the lost bag experience would look like. So, if you could imagine today when a customer loses their bag or their bag is delayed, you walk up to the carousel when you arrive, you watch everybody else's bag come out, you become increasingly frustrated and anxious. At some point you realize your bag's not coming out. And then you get to you got to go to the baggage claim, you queue up at baggage claim, and they may or may not know if your bag has actually made the plane or not. So tremendously frustrating and unsettling experience as a traveler, and it really eats away at brand loyalty and brand trust. So we sat down and worked out, this is an operational issue that happens sometimes. It's not that airlines want to let it happen, but it just happens, right? So the question is, how can we intervene or enable the organization to intervene and make the best of that situation? So we really thought about being more proactive in the customer experience. So what does that look like? So Boxever has obviously got a really high fidelity view of the customer, so we know who's boarded the plane. We also connect to operational systems, so we know if that bag hasn't made it onto the plane. So we're in a position then to proactively notify the cabin crew attendant who has an intelligent point of sale, like an iPad device, to say, hey, Jack in 42A, his bag hasn't made it on the plane. Could you go down, speak to him, apologize, and we'll do the calculations in the background to determine if that customer has a high propensity to be a high lifetime value or a high propensity to spend more with the organization. Then we will determine that customer could be eligible for an upgrade on the spot, so the cabin crew attendant can go and offer that passenger an upgrade. So really, it starts to, it's a bad experience, but it's a bad experience because the bag isn't there. But it starts to show that the airline cares and is taking the steps to really speak to the customer. When the customer arrives and deboards and deplanes, he could switch on Facebook Messenger and he will receive a notification. Mm-hmm. And if the customer wants to, within the chatbot interface, they can resolve the bag issue. So going back and forth and say, yeah, this is my hotel, and he can actually address the issue there. If they're not comfortable in that interface, they can hit a button to click the call. They'll be routed to the contact center. They won't be routed around all the IVRs, so they'll get directly to an agent, a human. And that person, because of the Boxever CDP, they'll have all the data that went before, so they'll know the customer got an upgrade. They'll know that customer wasn't comfortable resolving the issue on a chatbot, and they'll be able to work through it to finalize any arrangements to get the bag delivered to the hotel or whatever the customer needs. So in that example, what we're trying to show, one, we're trying to achieve this kind of connected customer experience and really be, turn a bad experience into kind of brand loyalty. But to do that, what you can see is that we're connecting the dots across digital channels and physical channels to really show how you can bring this together. And that's quite an expansive example in the digital and non-digital world. In the more digital world, we do a ton of work on web, mobile, and email. And some good examples would be, as customers are browsing on the website, we categorize that intent, so we automatically recognize they may be interested in sun holidays in the south of Europe, and based on that, then every time we speak to that customer, we can leverage that information to be, very, very subtle about how we promote certain destinations, whether that customer's on the website, they're in the mobile experience, or they're receiving emails. And a good example would be, with one of our customers, they got a 4x improvement in their email newsletter conversion because we were able to mine intent and build a unique newsletter for each of their 18 million emails that went out every week. So, what we've learned and what we've seen is that anywhere we can apply some intelligence and apply some knowledge of what we knew previously about that customer, we see that the customer experience improves, but also that conversion, so that they're selling more product, or they're expanding the average order value through other cross sells or upsells.
Excellent. I mean, I think the airline example is fascinating, because you've obviously had to deal with multiple different organizations come suppliers, as well as pulling in terms of pulling kind of data in, and also getting to people to act on the data.
Exactly right. And I think this is where we've had a lot of experience dealing with these big organizations, so we're comfortable bringing stakeholders along. Typically it's one division within an organization that procures it, but the whole organization has to get their arms around it and believe in the vision. And we've been very lucky to work with some super brands, and actually what we found over the last year is that this is very transferable outside of travel. So in terms of the last 6 months, we've started to work with brands in financial services and utilities, and they have the same challenge. They're not selling products like an airline or an online travel agency, but they have to be able to create better customer experiences, because retention is a real challenge in those industries. About whether it's retention in insurance or retention in utilities, it's about, is the customer experience correct? And when I'm speaking to that customer, am I speaking to them with one voice? So everybody has a horror story about ending up on the end of a call center for a utility bill. To try to resolve the utility, whether it's a phone or TV or cable bill. And I think that with our technology, these types of organizations can now understand who are the right customers to fast track through those type of experiences. When you actually get to speak to a human, that it is a human experience, and that's based on equipping those agents with information. That means they don't have to keep asking the same questions over and over again, and they're trained to be able to work out what the right next best action is for the customer. So we're pretty excited that some of the big transformational challenges that we've solved for these large airlines is very, very transferable into other verticals, and we'll have some really exciting news to announce around some big financial service companies over the coming months.
Well, that's great, because I think that you just answered my kind of my next question, which was, because it looks like you've got a whole heap of really good and deep and kind of broad experience in travel. And I was going to ask you what are the next challenges, and it seems like the next challenge is transferring that into other industries and sectors. And it sounds like financial services is a place where you're hitting the ground and gaining some traction, which is great.
Yeah, I think you can never underestimate the challenges faced by that unique challenges faced by individual industries or sectors. Certainly we've got a huge amount of experience. We understand revenue management in airlines, and PNRs, and network operations, and network planning, and all the things that make an airline an airline. I think we've got significant capability actually in financial services in the organization already. So it allows us to relate to these organizations very effectively around some of their challenges, which are kind of broadly related to being able to build this engagement. And if you look at a lot of the financial services companies, they're being challenged by new digital businesses, whether in the bank's case it's money transfers, or mobile only banking, or it's not that there's going to be one disruption. I think what's going to happen is each of their revenue streams is being disrupted individually by a specific challenger. And interestingly, they're all digital. So the imperative, understanding that kind of dynamic, is really the imperative for them is around engagement and building comparable experiences that you could receive in a digital bank. And when you abstract it up a level, whether it's Emirates trying to create this kind of seamless digital and physical experience, so the experience that you get in the digital world is mirrored by that wonderful experience you have in the airport, in the cabin with Emirates. It's the same in the bank, right? So they're trying to do They're trying to create this seamless, effortless digital experience. And then if and when you need to speak to somebody, that experience is a real brand experience. It's about, if I go to the branch or I call somebody on the contact center, it's a value-driven experience. It's not that I need to change my credit card number or whatever it is. And so I think when you lift it up a level, certainly across industry, the ambition of these organizations are the same. It's really about building a key strategic competitive advantage around customer experience. And that, when you look at one brand or another, that intangible brand loyalty piece is the piece that's going to be a key decision point for many organizations,
right.
many customers. Sorry.
And so is that the trigger for organizations to start on this journey?
Well, in airlines, there's two triggers very clearly. One is there's a desire and an appetite to really differentiate on customer experience, mm-hmm. which is, many times can be quite intangible, and it requires real leadership and belief and vision to do that. The second one is a desire to really be more effective in your sales and marketing functions, which is driving better acquisition, i.e. more effective customer spend on paid media spend on Google or Facebook. It's about when you bring people to your website or digital channels, making sure that you convert them effectively and you can entice them to maybe through upsell or cross-sell to spend more outside the core product like the flight. And then I guess in retention or service, how do you make sure that those channels are generating more revenue? So the imperative typically is one as well. Everybody has the imperative to make more money, right, and be more effective. But then the other one is really about, can you build this experience that is truly differentiated, and customers will lean into that experience more than your competitors.
Yeah. Okay. So Dave, I'm just going to keep an eye on time. I know you're a busy man, but is there anything that you think we've kind of missed out that you want to add before I ask you kind of my two final questions?
No, I think we've covered it. There's one point about when organizations talk about customer experience and these big projects. We are pretty passionate about doing things incrementally, and being able to deliver value quickly to organizations. And when you think about, what does it mean to create this clean, connected customer experience? In many times, it's not about having this, it is about having kind of, this brand cares, but it's not about having huge wow moments. I believe the wow comes in all the little micro moments that are connected across all the different touch points in the journey, right? And it's for some of your listeners, I think when you're thinking about this and trying to do this, there's definitely a draw or a desire to try to do something really big. And what happens quite quickly is that you realize that it's actually quite a challenging thing to do. The example around the lost bag is something is on the back of a platform that we've built incrementally over the course of a number of years, right? So I think what I would recommend to all your listeners is that think about, how do I connect the dots across all these touch points? How do I make sure when I'm speaking to the customer, I'm speaking to them in one voice? And then that's a platform that allows me to add more and more smarts or more intelligence over time. But all the time, I'm coming at it from a clean, consistent base. And that's something that many organizations, when they think about this challenge, they sometimes think about it in the wrong way. It's really about, how can I, when I speak to the customer, it's not, the wow doesn't come in that big bang. It comes in a consistency of voice and a consistency of communication.
Yeah. That
is challenging without technology like ours.
Yeah, I think you just answered my next question, which was, what is wow service or experience for you? I think you just answered that, and and because I think you're absolutely right. It's almost a bit like people get caught up in the shiny new object, sort of big impact, sexy activity or initiative type of thing, but actually, wow is actually, in many cases, is about being brilliant at the basics.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. And I think probably just to add to that, like, and the wow in the experience is that, and then it's about building that capability into your organization. So maybe the next interesting thing is chatbots. You know, who knows? It really depends on the organization. But if the cost of doing a chatbot is too high, then it's going to be prohibitive, or the expectation is going to be too high. And the question is, and how do I build capability in the organization to try chatbots in a very kind of sandbox, cost-effective way that allows the organization to see if it will work. Similarly for Amazon Alexa or for the next social network, these things are just going to come faster and faster, you know. And I think for organizations, it's about understanding that there's real wow in being able to, you know, access those channels and start to try and test them with your customers in a way that, you know, the organization doesn't cost the organization much, you know, and that's a mindset shift for most organizations.
Yes. And I agree. I mean, I think one of the other things I would add on to that, which is a persistent kind of challenge, is to get people to have to create the time and have the courage to actually choose what to do and what not to do, rather than just feeling that they need to do everything.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Right. Anyway, so enough on that, because that's a whole nother kind of like rabbit hole that we could descend into. So, Dave, here's my final question that I always ask at the end of these interviews, and it is this: is there anything that you would like to shamelessly plug?
Yes, two things.
Okay.
One, I think, and I've mentioned it already, I think we're known for our capability in the airline industry, and we're working with a select number of partners right now in financial services to really help them transform their customer experience using our capability and technology. If any of your readers are interested in working with us in this area outside of travel, we're obviously keen to discuss that opportunity with them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have an upcoming webinar with Marketing Week, and you can sign up on our website, and that will really talk about some of the exciting things that we've been doing with airlines, but also focusing on the things we're going to do outside of travel. It's on April the 6th, but you can sign up online at our website. So if you want to learn more, we'd love to share that with you.
Dave, thanks very much. That's kind of been fantastic, really interesting, it really exciting, and I like the way that it's this idea around the customer data platforms emerging, pulling it all data sources together and making sense of it all. I think that's a really exciting thing. So congratulations on that, and for your success, and thank you for sharing your experience and insight and time with us today.
Not at all. Thank you, Adrian.